I was the man who drove the nails into the hands of the Son of God. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. That's heavy. That's the kind of confession that sits in your chest like a stone. And before you click away thinking this is just another religious story, let me tell you something. What happened on that hill changed everything I thought I knew about life, death, and what comes after. And by the end of this, you'll understand why I'm standing here, dressed like this. Oh, don't worry. I'll explain the costume in a minute. But first, you need to hear what I saw, what I did, and what I can never unsee. My name doesn't matter anymore, but my story, that might just save your life. I was born in Rome during the reign of Tiberius Caesar. My mother used to tell me I was a miracle. The physicians said she'd never carry a child to term, something about her womb being too weak. But there I was, screaming my lungs out on a cold winter night, defying every prediction they'd made. She believed the gods had protected me. Jupiter, Mars, Venus, she'd pray to all of them, burn incense at their altars, convinced they had a plan for me. And for a while, I believed it too. I grew up worshiping those marble statues. I'd stand in the temples, staring up at Jupiter's stone face, waiting for something, anything, to happen. Waiting to feel heard. You know that feeling? When you're praying, chasing success, pouring your heart into relationships, money, career, and you still feel empty, like there's this void inside you that nothing can fill. That was me. The gods were silent, cold, just like the statues. When I was 14, my mother got sick, some kind of fever that spread through our district. I prayed. Oh, I prayed like never before. Offered sacrifices, begged every deity I could name. She died anyway. And my father, he couldn't handle it. Disappeared one night, left me with nothing but a rented room and a gnawing hunger. So I did what desperate boys did in Rome. I joined the Legion. The Roman army didn't care about your story. It cared about obedience, discipline, absolute, unquestioning submission to the chain of command. You follow orders, you survive. You question them, you die. Simple as that. They taught me to march, to fight, to kill without hesitation. And when they sent me to Judea, that dusty, rebellious province on the edge of the empire, I learned what it meant to be a tool of Rome's power. I executed criminals. I hunted down rebels. I beat people in the streets when they refused to pay taxes. And sometimes, late at night, I'd feel a flicker of something. Guilt, maybe. But I'd bury it, drown it in wine. Tell myself I was just following orders. That's what soldiers do, right? Now, here's where things get interesting. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around for this part, because what happened next is so insane, so beyond anything I could have imagined, that even now, decades later, I still can't fully wrap my mind around it. It was Passover. The city was packed with pilgrims, and tensions were running high. Some Jewish teacher had been causing trouble, healing people, preaching in the temple, claiming to be the Messiah. The religious leaders hated him, said he was a blasphemer, and when Rome's governor, Pontius Pilate, got involved, we all knew how it would end. They brought him to the praetorium for trial. I was stationed outside, part of the guard detail. I'd seen plenty of condemned men before. They'd beg, scream, curse, try to fight. But this one, this Jesus of Nazareth, he was different. They flogged him first. 39 lashes with a flagrum. That's a whip with metal tips designed to shred flesh. I've seen grown men pass out after 10. He took all 39 and didn't make a sound. Just stood there bleeding while the soldiers mocked him. They put a crown of thorns on his head, a purple robe on his shoulders, and laughed. "Hail, King of the Jews!" I should have laughed too, but I couldn't, because when he looked at me, I mean really looked at me, it wasn't with hatred, it wasn't with fear, it was with, I don't even know how to describe it, compassion, sorrow, like he knew every dark thing I'd ever done and still saw something in me worth saving. And then I heard him say it. As they were beating him, spitting on him, tearing his flesh apart, he whispered, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." Who says that? Who forgives the people torturing them? They gave me the assignment. Crucifixion detail. 3 men, 2 thieves, and this Jesus. We marched them up to Golgotha, a skull-shaped hill outside the city. By the time we got there, Jesus could barely stand. He'd carried his cross part of the way before collapsing, and we'd forced some random guy from the crowd to carry it the rest. And then came my orders. Drive the nails. I'd done this before. It was procedure. You take a long iron spike, position it just right in the wrist, not the palm, that would tear through, and you hammer it through bone and wood until it holds. Then you do the same with the feet. Hoist the cross upright, let gravity do its work, and wait for them to suffocate. Could take hours, sometimes days, but this time felt different. I knelt beside him, positioned the first nail, and just before I swung the hammer, he looked at me again. Not with anger, not with blame, with that same inexplicable peace. I still hear the sound of that hammer, the crunch of metal-piercing flesh, the wood splintering beneath the iron. And the worst part? He didn't scream, he didn't curse me, he just prayed for me, for the soldiers, for the crowd jeering below. We raised the cross. I stepped back, trying to shake off whatever I was feeling, and that's when the sky started changing. It was noon, should have been bright, hot, the sun beating down, but darkness rolled in like a storm, thick and unnatural, blocking out the light. People started panicking. The earth began to shake, not like a tremor, but like something deep in the ground was splitting apart. And then I felt it, a crack, not just in the earth, in me. Because standing there, watching this man die for crimes he didn't commit, I realized something. This wasn't just another execution. This wasn't just another criminal. Everything about him, his silence, his forgiveness, the way even nature itself seemed to be reacting to his death, it all pointed to one impossible truth. And I heard myself say it before I even realized I was speaking. Truly, this was the Son of God. The words came out of my mouth like a confession, like something I'd been holding back my entire life finally breaking free. The other soldiers looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had, but in that moment, everything I thought I knew about the gods, about power, about life and death, it all shattered. Because if this man was who he claimed to be, then I'd just killed God. 3 days later, I volunteered for tomb duty. I don't know why. Curiosity? Guilt? Maybe some twisted part of me wanted to make sure he stayed dead. The religious leaders were paranoid. They'd heard rumors that his followers might try to steal the body and claim he'd risen from the dead. So they posted guards, round-the-clock surveillance. A massive stone sealed the entrance. I was there that night. Around 3 a.m., something happened. The ground shook. Not like before. This was different, violent. And then I saw him. An angel. I know how that sounds. Trust me, I didn't believe in angels. But this thing, this being, appeared out of nowhere, radiating light so bright I couldn't look directly at it. It rolled the stone away like it weighed nothing. And when I finally managed to look inside the tomb, empty. The burial cloths were still there, folded neatly. But the body? Gone. I should have reported it. Should have told my commander exactly what happened. But how do you explain that? How do you tell Rome that a dead man just walked out of his own grave? So we lied. The chief priests paid us off, gave us a story to tell. His disciples came at night and stole him while we were sleeping. It was ridiculous. Guards don't sleep on duty. We'd be executed for that. But they didn't care. They just needed the story to go away. And I ran. Oh, right. The costume. Yeah, I know I'm standing here dressed like a Roman soldier. Look, I figured if I'm going to tell you this story, if I'm going to ask you to believe something this crazy, the least I could do is commit to the bit, you know? Plus, it helps you picture it. Imagine me in this armor, holding that hammer, standing at the foot of the cross, because that's the image I want burned into your mind. Not because I'm proud of it, but because I need you to understand what happened next. I spent years running, changed my name, left Judea, tried to forget everything I'd seen. But you can't outrun truth. You can't unsee what you've witnessed. Eventually, I went back. Not to Rome, to Judea, but this time as a stranger. I grew a beard, wore common clothes, blended in with the locals, and I started asking questions. Quietly, carefully, I found people who'd seen him, people who'd been healed by him, a blind man who could now see, a woman caught in adultery who'd been forgiven instead of stoned. And then I met them, his followers. They weren't what I expected. They weren't hiding. They weren't afraid. They were transformed, bold, proclaiming that he'd risen, that he'd appeared to them, that he'd conquered death itself. And slowly, painfully slowly, I started to believe. Not because someone convinced me, not because of some emotional experience, but because the evidence was overwhelming. The empty tomb, the changed lives, the fact that these terrified disciples were now willing to die for what they'd seen. And most of all, because of that moment on the cross, that forgiveness, that peace, that impossible, inexplicable grace extended to a man like me, a man who'd driven nails through the hands of God. Here's what I need you to understand. Those nails I drove, they were real, made of iron, sharp, brutal. They tore through flesh and bone and held a dying man to a wooden beam. But there's another kind of nail, an invisible one. And you're carrying them too. Every lie you've told, every person you've hurt, every selfish choice, every moment you've chosen darkness over light, those are nails. And just like the ones I drove, they pierce, they wound, they kill. The difference is, I got to see what my nails did. You don't. Yours are hidden, buried under excuses, justifications, distractions. You're walking around with a hammer in your hand and you don't even realize it. But here's the miracle. He forgave me, not because I deserved it, not because I earned it, but because that's who he is. That's what he does. He takes broken, guilty, nail-driving sinners like me and offers them something we could never get on our own. Grace. It took me years to accept it. Years of wrestling with the guilt, the shame, the nightmares. Years of thinking I was too far gone, too stained, too unforgivable. But I was wrong. Because if he could forgive the man who drove the nails, he can forgive anyone. Even you. So here's my question for you. What are you holding on to? What void are you trying to fill with money, relationships, success, religion? What invisible nails are you carrying, convinced that you're too far gone, too broken, too guilty for grace? I'm telling you, from experience, you're not. I stood at the foot of the cross. I heard him pray for his killers. I saw the darkness, the earthquake, the empty tomb. I ran from the truth for years before finally accepting it. Don't make my mistake. Don't wait. Because the same man who forgave me, a Roman soldier, a killer, a man who literally crucified the Son of God, is offering you the same thing right now. Forgiveness, freedom, a new life. All you have to do is say yes. I was the man who drove the nails into the hands of the Son of God, and he saved me anyway. What's stopping him from saving you? If this story made you think, subscribe. There are many more that need to be told.